Hey everybody, this is just me talking here for a little bit with this vlog entry, but I wanted to share this piece of video because it was something that I shot about a week ago at a rally for Donald Trump's presidential candidacy. This was held in Rock Hill, South Carolina. This was the evening of January, 8th, 2016, at the Winthrop Coliseum there on the campus of Winthrop University in Rock Hill. The piece of video that I'm talking about was something that's gotten a lot of national media attention. It's something that I wanted to share just because, again, it was a piece of video that I managed to shoot. Not that I think I got a perspective on it that was different than anyone else's, but just sort of giving me an opportunity to share my personal reflections of that. First and foremost, I'd like to say that I'm not a Trump supporter. I am not a supporter of any candidate for that matter at this point in time. I went to the event because of the fact that I wanted to see the sideshow, quote unquote, for what it was, and it was 100% a sideshow. Of course, you probably could say the same thing for just about any political rally. But this was unlike anything I've ever seen before in my entire life. Got to the building around 3:45. Doors did not open until 4:30, and there were already lines with several hundred people outside the building. It was really mind-blowing to see that kind of collection outside a campus that's one of the bigger liberal arts colleges in the state of South Carolina. But there were tons of people there, and it was definitely a carnival type atmosphere because there were vendors selling things that were associated with Trump and his candidacy and his campaign. But during the progression of the evening there was a moment to where Trump, of course, mentioned radical Islam and people of Muslim faith and Arab Americans, this, that, and the other. Going forward, I'm going to butcher some pronouns, so please don't think of me too harshly for that. I'm not really sure what to refer to various folks as because I'm not an expert on any of that by any stretch of the imagination. But at one point, he did mention radical Islam, and there were throughout the speech he gave, there were several moments where people were protesting, and they would yell or try and get his attention and be a part of the spectacle there that evening. But there was one moment where he did mention radical Islam, and there was a group of people who stood up. They were behind him and kind of up in the seats there a good ways, but they were behind him, and they stood up and just essentially stood there. And one of the people in the group was a woman. And I don't know if I should call her Arab American, Muslim, Islamic, but here again, I'm going to butcher that part of this video, so don't hold it against me. But she and the people she was with just stood there. They did not yell. They did not attempt to cause a major disruption. They just engaged in a perfectly suitable, silent form of protest. And after the fact, she's come out, I believe, and said that this was her way of trying to bring attention to what Arab Americans look like, that they're just, normal, everyday people who are trying to live their lives just as everyone else is in this country. But the part that I really wanted to highlight, and I'm going to include the video here after I get done with my little spiel, but the part that I really want to include and highlight is just the reaction that she got as she was being escorted out of the building. She was not manhandled. They were never, the police and whatnot, they were providing security there. They did not rough her up. She was not grabbed in any way, shape, or form. The people in the crowd that she encountered as she was leaving are what I'd like to mention and what I'd like to really put a spotlight on, because it was something that as I watched her make her way up the stairs there that really, honest to God, depressed me and upset me unlike really anything has here in a long time. They were getting up in her face, giving her a thumbs down and holding their Trump signs up in her face, and it was really troubling to me because these are, I assume, my fellow South Carolinians, and gosh knows we get plenty of foul press for being the Southerners that we are, with the exception of when we have an opportunity to react to something like the Charleston shootings or whatnot. But it was just amazing to see people who had been whipped up into that level of fervor over the rantings of a man like Donald Trump. Really upsetting. I don't know how to describe that other than just to call it what it was, and that was upsetting. I would like to think that those folks who were reacting to her that way are just normal people who maybe got caught up in the moment, and gosh knows, people react differently to different things, but at the same time, people tend to reveal themselves. I'm a strong believer in the old saying that a tiger doesn't change his stripes. So when you have someone who acts that way in that moment, they're probably just taking down whatever guard they were putting up in the first place to prevent them from being thought of in everyday life as something like a racist or a bigot or whatnot, and allowing it to go on display, because that's what Trump inspires. He has essentially told people it's okay to not have a filter, to say whatever you want to say, because he can get away with it, seeing as how he has seemingly all the money in the world, and it's not going to affect him one way or the other. So, and that's dangerous in my opinion. Not that people shouldn't be honest with one another, but the fact that you throw all the things in, like cordiality and even morality to a point, out the window, for the sake of expressing your own opinions. And I'm all for freedom of speech and whatnot. I agree with protest. I agree with someone like Trump being able to speak his mind, everyone for that matter. But there's a difference between acting like an idiot and trying to have some type of a civil discussion with someone. And that's what upsets me about so many things that you see online and in the media and whatnot. If people would talk these days as opposed to trying to get a reaction out of one another, I think so many things would go solved much more quickly and much more painlessly than they are now. It just kind of is what it is. But at any rate, I don't want to ramble too much on this thing, because it's there in the video. You can see what I'm talking about. But yeah, just in closing, I want to say, please be aware of what you're doing as we get into this election cycle. Please be very, very, very sure of what you are doing when you cast that vote, because you can change a lot of things in this world by clicking those buttons on those screens. Like I mentioned, I don't support any candidate at this point in time. I'm waiting to see who winds up, more or less being the candidate for whatever parties wind up being in the final running there, before I make any type of a decision. But I don't know that I'll even have a decision then. Just because you go to the polls to vote during a presidential election doesn't necessarily mean that you have to vote for a candidate there, of course. Plenty of local races will be contested around my part of the world, so and those actually do seem to mean more than the national stuff, at least to me anyway. But it is what it is. Watch the video, check it out, form your own opinion, and please do vote, because that will make a difference coming forward here in 2016. Appreciate you guys tuning in.
I think I can get almost anything passed. I know the good ones, I know the bad ones. And, I understand the game. And I think you have to understand the game. Like Obama doesn't understand the game. He doesn't know radical Islamic terrorism. He doesn't know. He refuses to say the name. If you don't say the name, you're never going to solve the problem. I know the game. And I know the game very well. And these people will come in. Was there somebody up there? solved, but we have to understand the problem. We have to know the problem. And before we do anything, and before we do anything stupid, we have to know what we're doing. So we do have a real problem. We do have a real problem. There is such a level of hatred that you can't even believe.